They leave you just before nightfall. No shouting, no whip crack, no prayer. Only the sound of wagon wheels rolling away and the long quiet hush of men who've convinced themselves you're already dead. You sit where they dropped you, hard-packed trail dirt, one canteen half full, and the last hard biscuit pressed into your palm like that makes it mercy. Your belly shifts under your dress, not with hunger, with life. Too soon to come, too far along to ride, you breathe once, then again. Because breath is all you've got left, the wind picks up slow, carries the dust of their departure down the ridge and into your teeth. You don't cry, you stopped crying 2 rivers ago, back when your husband stopped calling you by name and started calling you liability. You try to stand, your knees say no. So you sit there a while longer, legs folded beneath you like broken tent poles. The prairie stretches in every direction. It doesn't care that you're here. You count the things you still have. 1 cracked water flask, the shoes your mother died in, a knife that never held an edge, and a heartbeat beneath your ribs that doesn't belong to you. You try not to say her name because you haven't chosen one yet, because part of you still hoped your husband would, and that hope kept you quiet long after it should have turned to screaming. Dark comes fast out here. It doesn't wait for questions, doesn't offer answers. You pull the shawl tighter around your shoulders. No, not a shawl, just a tattered quilt scrap you tucked under your spine last night to dull the wagon rattle. But now it's all you've got between you and the cold. You curl inward, whisper promises you can't keep, sleep in pieces. Something wakes you near midnight, not a sound, not a shape, a presence. The kind of stillness that doesn't belong to wind or stars. You open your eyes, see nothing at first, then movement. Low, careful, a figure kneeling near your fire pit, ashing something into the coals. You can't move, not from fear, from awe. He doesn't look at you, doesn't speak, just sets a tin cup beside the ember pile. Steam rises. Not much, just enough. Then he disappears into the dark. You don't drink it right away, but you do curl your fingers around it. The heat sinks into your knuckles. And for the first time since they left you, your hands stop shaking. If stories like this help you breathe easier, you know where to find more. Let me know what time it is where you are, and if you're listening alone, now dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let the story come to you. Morning comes like a question you don't want to answer. Your back aches from the hard ground, your legs from not moving, your stomach from the way the baby pressed against your spine all night. Like she, too, was listening for footsteps. There are none, just wind. And the sound of birds announcing a day you didn't ask for. The tin cup still sits beside you. Empty now. You touch it once, then pull it closer, like proof you didn't dream him. Whoever he was, the one who came with steam and silence, the one who didn't ask anything. You rise slow, not because you're afraid, because your hips argue. You lean into a cottonwood trunk, letting it carry your weight. It doesn't complain, the way men do. The way your husband did every time you stopped to breathe, or bled, or begged for more time. Midday you see him again, across the plain, near the rise. Just a shape at first, blurred, crouched, indistinct. You shield your eyes. The sun's high. He moves like a shadow, quiet, purposeful. You think to call out, but something in you says don't. And so you don't. He approaches slow, one hand resting on a rope tied to his horse's bridle. He leads the animal gently, like they're old friends, in no hurry. His other hand carries a satchel. He stops 4 paces from you, doesn't speak. You nod. He sets the satchel down. Inside, hardtack, dried strips of meat, a flask of water, a folded square of wool, cleaner than anything you've touched in days. And still, he says nothing. You open your mouth, but your voice feels foreign. You whisper anyway. Why? His head tilts just slightly, not confusion, recognition. As if he's heard that word before, in the same tone. Then finally he speaks. One word, low, like thunder still hidden behind mountains. Storm's coming. Then he points southwest, a ridge, a hollow, safe from wind. Then he walks, doesn't wait for you, but doesn't move fast. Leaves a pace you can follow, if you choose. You do. It takes all of you to stand, even more to walk. Your boots chew into your heels, but you walk anyway, because silence has never felt so much like a promise. By the time you reach the hollow, dusk is thinking about arriving. He's already lit a fire, already carved a spot for you just wide enough to sit without curling. He doesn't touch you, doesn't offer more than what's needed, but when you settle beside the warmth, he drapes a piece of wool across your back. It smells like smoke and something else, juniper, and faintly, something you can't place yet. Something like grief. He eats across from you, doesn't watch you, but you know he knows every time your breath catches, every time your hand curls around your belly. He doesn't ask, but when you shift, pressing your palm against the tightness that's begun to stir, he tosses something into the flames, a pouch. It smells sharp, medicinal, then soft, like healing. You sleep better that night, not fully, but better. And when you wake, he's already packed the satchel. The fire is coals. The path west is waiting, and beside the ash, a shawl. Folded, neat, not yours, but meant for you. You lift it and feel the weight, not just in your hands, in your chest, because it smells like something lost and something returned. It's late morning when you reach the river crossing. The scout walks ahead, horse steady beneath him, reins loose like he trusts the land more than the saddle. You trail behind, feet blistered, the shawl tight around your shoulders, though the sun's already high. He stops near a split log bench where a wagon trail ledger hangs from a nail beneath a crude shelter. You sit, rest. He points. You rise, step under the roof, open the leather-bound book. Pages ripple in the wind. You flip to the date, your caravan, the one that left Fort Kearny, the one that left you. You scan down the list, names, wagon leaders, children, traded oxen, lost goods. Then you reach the household list. Your fingers pause, because your name's not there, not in your husband's entry, not as wife, not as property, not at all. He didn't just leave you. He erased you. The baby stirs beneath your ribs, like she hears it too. You close the book slow. The scout watches. Doesn't blink, doesn't question, just nods. Once, because he's seen this before. And you? You're still learning how to carry it. You find a pencil at the bottom of the box. Take the ledger back to your lap. On a blank page, you write your name, the full one. The one your mother said came from a river. You write it in tight script, steady as you can. Then write another name beneath it. Not the baby's, not yet. Just daughter. And you fold the page, slip it in your dress. Because some names don't belong to the trail. They belong to the fire you haven't built yet. That evening, the scout lays 2 stones by the fire, flat, smooth. One he marks with ash, a single curve. You don't ask what it means. He doesn't offer. But later, as you drift toward sleep, he murmurs low, "First names live in stone. Second names live in silence. You turn to him, whisper, "Which one am I?" He looks at you, not past you, not through you, at you, then says, "You're the name that wasn't erased." You sleep curled beside the ledger page, not because you're trying to be remembered, but because tonight you already are. You wake before dawn, not to pain, not to fear, to warmth, soft, heavy, something wrapped around your shoulders that wasn't there when you closed your eyes. You sit up slowly. The fire's low, coals still glowing. The scout is gone. But the shawl, it's there, not the scrap of wool he handed you days ago. This is different. Lined, fringed, worn, but not ragged. And it smells like juniper, yes, but also like wood smoke, like cedar, like something that once lived close to a woman's skin. You lift it to your nose, breathe deep. The scent is older than this place. And for a second, just a second, you feel like a daughter again. Not a widow, not an abandoned wife, just someone who was once wrapped in something that meant something. Later, when he returns, he doesn't mention the shawl, just hands you a strip of dried meat and a look that says, "Keep it." You try to ask, "Was this yours?" He shakes his head, then nods. And that's when you understand. It wasn't his. It was hers. You don't speak her name. He hasn't offered it. But the shawl says enough. The embroidery at the hem, faint roses, stitched in a style not from this part of the country. Mountain thread, old hands, maybe hers, maybe her mother's. You fold it close and thank him with silence, the same kind he's always given you. That night, as the fire cracks low, he tosses something under the flames, a lock of braided hair, too short to be yours, too gray. You say nothing. He watches it curl and blacken, then walks away. But you don't. You stay. And you understand. The shawl is not a gift. It's a passing from one woman who was loved and lost to another who might survive. You drape it around your shoulders again. It fits, not perfectly, but close, like it knows the shape you're becoming, and will wait for you to grow into it. The baby kicks once, sharp. You press a hand to your belly and whisper, "She would have liked this." You don't know who she is, the baby, the woman, yourself, maybe all of them. The stars come out slow, the moon follows, and beneath that soft silver hush, you fall asleep in a stranger's shawl and dream of warmth that doesn't ask you to be whole, just present. The pain comes with the thunder. You feel it low and certain, not sharp at first. Just a deep, dragging ache that tightens like the sky. You know this rhythm. You've heard it whispered by women behind flaps of canvas, in wagons, beside rivers, in songs passed down through tea leaves and braided hair. You try to breathe slow, but the second wave hits harder. This one climbs your spine like a question you don't want to answer. The scout notices. You see it in how he stills. His hand halts mid-carve. He sets the knife down, then nods once. Not alarm, not surprise, just ready. He builds a second fire, farther from the first, lays stones in a wide ring. He places water on to boil, tears strips of cloth from his own undershirt. No words, just motion. Like he's done this before, or watched it done, or maybe just imagined it enough times for the body to know without asking. You crouch, then drop to your knees as the next contraction hits like a hammer through the earth. You scream into your palm, not loud, but enough to scare the birds from the brush. He doesn't look away, but he doesn't come closer either. He gives you space. He lets you hurt without fear, and that's more than any man's ever given you. Hours pass, sweat soaks your collar, your thighs tremble, blood warms the dirt beneath your knees, the world becomes narrow, hot, widening only in pain, and then a break, a sudden silence, then a cry. High, sharp, impossible. He doesn't move. But you do. You fumble with shaking arms to lift her. And for the first time, she's real. Not a burden, not an excuse to leave you behind. A body, a breath, a face that is yours and not yours. You sob once, then twice, then laugh. Because she is here, and no one can take her now. You clean her with water he brings, wrap her in the shawl he never tried to reclaim. You hold her close. She roots for your breast, finds it, feeds quietly, like she trusts you already. He watches from a few feet away, arms folded, still kneeling. Then slowly, he reaches into his satchel, pulls something small and dark, a carved bead. He holds it up. You nod. He places it beside your fire, then turns away. You whisper, she doesn't have a name. The wind answers, but nothing else. You watch her sleep against your chest, and feel, for the first time, like something sacred was placed in your arms, instead of taken from them. The fire burns low. The pain in your body still hums. But you are not broken. You are begun. The morning after the birth, you wake to her breath on your collarbone, warm, steady, like she's been here forever. You press your lips to her forehead. She doesn't stir. She just nestles deeper into the shawl, tighter than you wrapped her, like the cloth itself is holding her. You sit up slowly. Your legs ache. But something else aches more. The weight of a question you haven't dared to ask. He's by the fire again, mending a strap. You clear your throat once. He looks up, then back to his hands. You walk over, the baby pressed to your chest. She won't sleep without it. You gesture to the shawl. He doesn't look, just nods. That's why I gave it. You lower yourself beside him, still waiting, still watching. Then finally, he says, it was hers. You know who he means. You don't ask her name, but you need to understand. So you say softly, you kept it all this time? He nods. It was buried with her. You blink. What? He picks up a stick, draws a line in the dust, then two more. A triangle. The grave washed out, rain took the earth. I found the shawl tangled in roots. He draws another shape, circular. I thought it was a sign. You hold your daughter closer. She would have been angry, you whisper. He shrugs. Maybe. Then he looks at you. But maybe she wanted it used, not mourned. You let the silence stretch, then ask, did she have a child? His jaw tightens. His eyes drop. He nods once. Stillborn. 2 winters before the trail. He doesn't say more, doesn't need to. The weight of that sentence presses between you like the coals that always burn just low enough to glow. You run your hand along the shawl's edge, finger the stitching. At one corner, you spot something you hadn't noticed before, a small loop of thread, different color. Out of place, you turn it over. There, beneath the hem, 3 tiny letters, barely legible. LRW. You touch them. Ask, were those her initials? He shakes his head. They were the baby's. Your breath catches. He nods. I couldn't bury her with a name no one remembered. You close your eyes. Feel the baby shift against your skin, then say, she remembers. He nods again. I hoped she would. You both sit there for a long time, saying nothing, watching the fire, and in that silence, something larger than grief folds itself between you. Not forgiveness, not love, but recognition. That night you stitch your initials into the other corner, soft, small, and in the middle, between LRW and yours, a new one, hers, the baby in your arms, the one with a name still growing. You try. You whisper the names in the dark, one by one, your mother's, your sister's, the name of the midwife who braided your hair before the wedding, the names of girls you read about in books, heroic, holy, strong. None of them settle. Each time you say them, she stirs, fusses, looks away. Even in sleep, she resists. The scout watches this without speaking, always a few feet off, never closer than the edge of firelight. He doesn't ask what you're trying to do, but he sees, and he listens. You say, Margaret. She cries. You say, Anna. She turns her head. You say, Clara, and she flinches, like you startled her in a dream. You wrap her tighter in the shawl. Breathe deep. Try something softer. A word that comes not from memory but from sound. A hum, a rhythm, a lullaby that came to you between contractions. No language, just shape. And in that shape, a name. You whisper it once, and her breath evens. You whisper it again, and her tiny fingers curl around your thumb. You don't know where it came from, only that it doesn't belong to any woman you've known, but it belongs to her, because she accepts it. And when you speak it, it feels less like giving and more like listening. You test it once more, lean close to her ear, say it again. She doesn't stir, but something in you does, a shiver, not of fear, of recognition. You try to write it, but your hand hesitates. There's no spelling for this, not yet. Only syllables, only breath, and maybe that's enough for now. The scout approaches that evening. He sees her sleeping against your chest. He kneels, places a carved figure beside the fire, a bird, smooth, simple. You ask, is it for her? He nods, then says a word, soft, not in English, not in any tongue you know, but it sounds like the name you found in the dark. You look at him. He nods again. It means found after fire. You wrap her tighter, kiss her temple. Then, for the first time, say the name aloud, not as a test, not as a question, but as a truth. And it echoes back from the rocks in a way that tells you she was waiting for it before you ever spoke it. The figure appears after a rain. You're digging a drainage trench beside the fire circle, baby bundled on your back, when your shovel hits something solid beneath the mud. Not stone. Wood, small, delicate. You kneel, clear away the muck, a cradle, half sunken, carved from dark pine, cracked in places but still whole enough to know what it once carried. You call for the scout. He comes without words. His eyes drop when he sees it. And you know before he says anything. He kneels beside it, touches the rim, not with reverence, with memory. You don't ask, but his silence answers everything. You carry it to the lean-to, wash it in river water, lay it near your own fire. Your daughter watches you the whole time, eyes wide, like she understands it was meant to hold her, but didn't. You sit with the scout that evening, cradle between you, and finally, he speaks, low, raw. My wife carved it in the last moon of her first pregnancy. You nod. He continues, it sat at the foot of the bed for 4 weeks. Pause. Then the bleeding started. You don't speak, just let him breathe. She died with the name in her mouth. You look up. He's staring into the fire. I didn't know what it meant. No one told me. She said it in sleep, in pain, over and over. He pulls something from his pocket, a cloth scrap, folded, inside a bead green oval like the one he left by your child after she was born. You hold it, recognize the stitch on the edge, the same as the shawl. You whisper, "It was the baby's?" He nods, then closes his hand and says, "I wasn't meant to keep it." You place your daughter in the restored cradle that night, just for a moment, to feel the curve of wood beneath her back, to honor the hands that carved it, to let her rest where another child never could. She stirs once, smiles, then sleeps, like she knows. You don't tell her whose it was, not now, maybe not ever, because some stories aren't given in words. They're passed in care, in silence, in the way someone wraps a shawl or leaves a bead near the fire. The scout watches her sleep, then rises, steps into the dark, doesn't say goodbye, but before he goes, he places one hand on your shoulder, heavy, still, then gone. You run your fingers along the edge of the cradle, say a name you don't know. For a child who never got to be held this way, and in that moment, you become more than mother. You become memory for someone who can't speak for herself anymore. The wind shifts, carries a new smell, char, ash. Something burned, but not recently. You follow it downwind while the baby sleeps. It leads you to a ring of blackened stones beneath a bluff, fire pit, old, cold. You kneel, sift through the ash, find fragments, nails, button, scrap of shoe leather too small for a man, and tucked into the rocks, a page, half burned, from a ledger. Your hands shake as you lift it. Only part of a name remains. The last line reads, "Survived, mother unknown." You blink. The ink smudged, but something in your gut goes cold. You know that script. You've seen it before. Your uncle kept a journal like that, back when you were a girl who still had cousins. And you realize you haven't heard from them in 2 years. No letters, no writers, nothing. You return to camp holding ash in your hands and a question too large to carry alone. The scout sees your face and stiffens. You say, "There was another." He nods, then gestures for you to sit. He places a stone near the fire, marks it with 2 lines, one vertical, one diagonal, then points to the west. Small wagon camp, 3 fires, burned in spring flood, covered up before army saw. You whisper, "Children?" He hesitates. Then, "One." You close your eyes. It might have been her or her sister or none, but it could have, and that is enough to open the grief again. That night you bury the page, not because it tells the whole truth, but because it reminds you how easy it is to disappear, and how deliberate you'll need to be to keep your daughter visible. You sit with her wrapped in the shawl. You hum the name she claimed. You write it on the inside of your boot. You carve it into the inside of the cradle, and then you whisper it to the stars, because the fire they left you in wasn't the first, and it won't be the last. But this time, you're not stepping out of it alone. You're walking forward, carrying. The scout lays it before you, late afternoon, no preamble, just the object. A folded page, thick with dust, stained from being folded inside oilskin. You know before you touch it that it's truth. You touch it anyway. It's a manifest, your caravan, your husband's handwriting. Neat is efficient, cold, line after line, oxen traded, flour rations noted, births marked with rough crosses. Then, 3 lines from the bottom. Sarah no longer traveling, debt settled, piled. And beside it, ledger balance, paid in full. You read it twice, then a third time, then you place it in your lap like it might bite. The scout doesn't speak, he just waits. Until you ask flatly, did he sign it? He nods. Before Fort Laramie, you whisper, so he planned it. The scout meets your eyes. Most men do. You rise, walk to the edge of camp, stare out at the low horizon. Your baby coos from the cradle you've made her 1,000 times over in your mind. You don't cry, not yet. That comes later. When you sit down with the ledger again and read the note beneath your name, a note you missed the first time, in different handwriting, not your husband's, one you don't recognize. It says, she carries well, should hold through delivery, worth more if it's a boy. Your lungs collapse inward. You stand too fast. The air is gone. The fire feels far away. You drop the paper, walk into the river, let the water reach your knees, then your hips, then your ribs. You don't scream, but you let the cold speak for you. You let it pull. When the scout finds you, you're shivering on the bank. He doesn't ask what you read. He knows. He builds the fire high, wraps the shawl around you, sits with your daughter tucked between your knees, and says the first sentence you've ever heard him say in full. He thought he was trading something broken. He looks at you, but he didn't know it could grow teeth. You don't reply. You're too tired. But later, after the baby sleeps, you burn the ledger, you scatter the ash, and you carve your name into a flat rock near the cradle. Not as warning, not as grief, as record, because this time someone's going to remember. You finish the stitching by lantern light. The shawl lies across your lap, the baby cradled within it, her breaths soft and even. On one edge, your initials, SEM, on the other stitched in smaller, tighter loops. LRDU, the name of the child who never wore the shawl, the one the scout lost. Between the letters, a new name, your daughter's. You embroidered it small, not because she is small, but because she is beginning, and beginnings should be stitched gently. She doesn't stir as you tie off the thread, doesn't cry, just sleeps. A little hand tucked under her chin like she's already keeping secrets. The fire crackles beside you. The scout sharpens his blade across the ring, careful, measured. You watch him, then watch her. Then look at the shawl again and realize it's no longer borrowed. It belongs, not to the past, to the bridge, to the hands that carried love through ash, then grief through silence, then silence into warmth. Later, you place her in the cradle. It groans softly beneath her weight, wood stretching, as if remembering its first child and welcoming this second one like a second chance. You tuck the shawl around her. Kiss the top of her head, whisper the full name, all three parts, into the smoke, then sit back and breathe. The scout watches you from the log near the edge of camp. You nod to him. He doesn't return it, just lowers his eyes and says, "She looks like someone I never held." You nod again. She sleeps like someone who knows she's meant to be here. He lays a stone near the fire, marks it with 2 lines crossing, then another. This one pointing up. No one says what it means, but you understand. That night you dream of 3 names braided together, one burned, one buried, one blooming. You wake with a smile, and for the first time in weeks, your body doesn't hurt when you rise, because the cradle is full and no one is missing. The next morning he points north, No words, just a gesture and a look that means, "Are you ready?" You nod, because it's time, not to keep moving, to arrive. The journey takes 2 days. You cross a dry creek bed, a burned stretch of hillside, a patch of prairie where nothing grows but wild mint and thistle. Your daughter sleeps most of the way, wakes only to nurse, then drifts again. The cradle is lashed gently to the back of the horse, the shawl tucked tight around her like a promise neither of you have said out loud. You know you're close before he speaks, because his step's slow. His breath changes. He doesn't guide the horse anymore. He walks ahead, carrying a bundle. At the crest of a hill, he stops. You come beside him. Below, a low grove, 3 stones, unmarked save one, braided grass, tied in a circle atop it, faded blue thread wound through. He walks down alone, kneels by the farthest stone. You stay behind, give him space, let him say whatever it is he couldn't say before. Then he stands, turns to you, and nods once. This time it means she's ready. You carry the baby down yourself. She fusses once, then quiets. You kneel beside the stone and place the cradle on the grass. Unwrap her slowly, hold her up to the wind, then lean in. Whisper her name to the earth, the full one, the true one. Braided from your loss, her father's silence, and the woman neither of you ever met, but whose name still breathes here. The wind shifts. A hawk passes overhead. The fire you left burning uphill hisses softly, as if in agreement. He doesn't speak, but he kneels beside you, places a bead on the grave, then another in your palm. You add it to your daughter's bracelet. 3 beads now, 3 names, all held. That night you don't return to the trail. You make camp there, in the grove. The fire ring you build is wide even. He shows you how to stack the stones for slow burn. You feed the baby beside the glow. You wrap her in the shawl, and when she sleeps, you don't. You sit awake, not guarding, not grieving, just being. Here, where the names live, and nothing feels like running anymore. You find him before sunrise, tending the fire in silence. The grove is still. Your daughter still sleeps, wrapped in the shawl that no longer feels like borrowed fabric, but like a story you haven't finished reading. You sit beside him, pull the cloth from your shoulders, fold it carefully, then hold it out, both hands. "It's not mine, toi," you say. Your voice is steady but low, soft, like the shawl itself. He doesn't take it, just looks at it, then at you, then says, "It wasn't mine to keep either." You hesitate, then ask, "Then whose was it?" He doesn't blink. "Whoever needed it next." You place the shawl on the ground between you. A thread catches in the breeze. He reaches down, pins it with a small stone, then speaks again. "She wore it in winter, my wife." You nod. "I figured. She died in spring, the same season you gave yours a name." He looks up, and for the first time his eyes shine, not with tears, with clarity. She would have liked her. He gestures toward the cradle. She would have said, "That one will grow teeth early." You laugh once, then press your palm over your mouth, because laughter still feels fragile, but true. He pushes the shawl back toward you, says, "It chose you." You shake your head. "No, I just didn't refuse it." "Same thing," he says. "She never wanted it buried. She wanted it to hold." You nod slowly, then lift the shawl again. Wrap it back around your daughter, and something in your chest loosens. Because you're not wearing grief. You're carrying memory, and memory knows how to move forward. That night the fire burns lower than usual. The cradle rests near your feet. He brings a pot of something sweet. You share it. No words, no names, just silence and breath, and a shawl that holds both his past and your future, with no conflict between them. The moon is thin tonight, hung low over the trees like something half remembered. The scout builds a fire wide and low. You feed your daughter beside it, then wrap her tight and press your lips to her temple. You wait until the embers settle into orange hum, then speak her name. For the first time, not in a whisper, not as a secret, not as a question, but as a statement. He's seated across from you, stone in hand, carving. He stops when you say it, listens, and nods. You add her full name after, your name, hers. And the third, the one passed down not by blood, but by shawl. You lay her in the cradle, tuck the corner of the shawl beneath her chin, then trace each stitch. 3 names embroidered now, each in a different hand, each in a different thread. But no part of it feels borrowed anymore. The scout places the cradle beside the fire, not for heat, for witness. He marks 3 lines in the dirt behind it, a symbol you now recognize, for wind, memory, and new breath. You close your eyes. Think of the women who never got to speak their child's names aloud. Your mother, his wife, the girl from the burned ledger. You whisper their names one by one, into the smoke, into the night. Then you whisper hers, one more time, and the fire doesn't flicker, it listens. Later, the baby stirs. You lift her, she opens her eyes. You say it again, and she smiles, not fully, just enough, like she's heard it before. You sit with her on your chest, your heart steady beneath hers, and think. You weren't meant to carry a child through fire, but you did, and now you carry her through naming, into memory, into the world. The scout leans over, places a fresh braid of wild mint beside the cradle. It keeps away silence, he says. You nod, then wrap it into the side rail. Let the scent fill the night. Let it say. She belongs. You wake before dawn. The fire's coals still glow, pulsing soft against the silence. You rise slowly, careful not to wake her. The shawl has slipped, but not fallen. She sleeps with one hand splayed, her fingers curling slightly, like she's holding the air itself. You sit beside the cradle, let your hand hover above her chest, feel her breath, steady, like yours now. The scout returns with water. He doesn't speak, only nods. You brew tea, split bread, and when the baby wakes, he carves a sliver of cedar and places it beside the cradle. No inscription, just scent. A gesture, a root, a reminder. You feed her slowly, hold her longer, sing the hum she calms to. She doesn't cry much anymore, not because the world has grown kinder, but because you have grown louder than your fear. Later, you gather your things, not because you're leaving, because you're ready. The trail still waits. But so does something more grounded, a clearing, a shelter, a place not just to survive, but to stay. The scout leads you there by noon. A shallow grove, grass already pressed from the last traveler. An old fire ring ringed with stones, smoothed by time and hands like yours. You build a new bed, lay the cradle beside it, set the shawl over both. You don't unpack everything, just enough, because now enough is plenty. That night you sit with her in your lap, the fire between you and the dark. You whisper a new story, not one of fire or loss, but of arrival, of the woman who was left, and the man who didn't ask why, and the child who accepted both their silences as shelter. You rock her gently, the cradle empty now, because tonight she sleeps against your chest, and you sleep against the truth. No one is missing now. Not her, not you, not the name the shawl remembered. Outside the stars lean close. The river still moves, even unseen. But inside this moment, nothing moves. Nothing flees, nothing forgets. Only the shawl breathes soft between you both, a cradle of fabric, of story, of choice.